This is Growing Your Firm, the podcast for ambitious accountants and firm owners who want to work smarter, grow faster, and lead better. Hey everybody, welcome to Growing Your Firm podcast. My name's Dave Cristello. I'm the founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow. This podcast is for any firm owner that wants to elevate their marketing, their sales, their team management, workflow, technology, and so much more. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, David Cristello here, founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow and host of Growing Your Firm podcast. Today's guest is Anderson Petergeorge. He's the co-founder at Quanto. You know, it's really interesting in the modern day of getting connected as a podcaster, as an operator. I got connected with Anderson because 2 or 3 months ago, he chat GPT'd his way through like a business plan or a growth plan. And he gave a shout out to a couple vendors. Jetpack was one of them, which was very cool. And the output of that prompt was fantastic. And that really kind of gives an insight into some of Anderson's skills. Where we were talking right before the recording, and he mentioned, well, you could think of me as a fractional CTO for many accounting firms. And so we're going to dive into the wonderful world of technology, but we're also going to talk about platform opportunities in firms kind of in that 1 to 10 million range. We're going to talk about AI and probably a bunch of other things depending on the rabbit hole that we go down. But Anderson, welcome to the show.
Awesome, David. It's an honor. Like I mentioned, we've followed your podcast for so many years and we grew as a bookkeeping firm. And so a lot of the tips and the guests that you had have been so monumental for our journey. So it's honestly an honor.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Well, let's bounce off of what you just mentioned. So you built a bookkeeping practice. Tell me a little bit at a high level where that practice is today, because you've obviously transitioned into other things. So help me understand the initial growth of the bookkeeping and then the transition into what you're doing today.
Yeah. So kind of my stories, I'm a CPA, um, started my career at KPMG. And so was stuck in audit, but really wanted to learn how to be a better kind of fractional CFO. Went to grad school at Oxford and then realized with the AI boom, I really wanted to come back to accounting. And then so I left to come back to Toronto, which is where we're based. Started working with all these amazing business owners. So used some AI native tooling that's off the shelf and grew to 40 customers within a few months. Had my co-founder who's a software engineer. So he was always like giving me the elbow to be like, hey, don't do this manually. Try to use some cool AI tools. So it really forced us to be really AI native from the start. And then through this journey, getting to 40 customers, we were making a lot of mistakes. And in that kind of place, we were talking to a lot of firm owners being like, hey, how do we better serve our customers? And in that conversation, they were like, you guys are using really cool tools. Why don't you help us with our goals? And so a lot of the goals that they had were like, hey, we want to acquire more firms or we're growing so rapidly. And what are the best AI tools to do that? So my co-founder, who's a smarter one, I say, as a software engineer, and me teamed up to be this kind of fractional CTO service for all these firms.
I love that. Well, what I guess and the context here is if you listen to this and you fast forward 6 weeks or 12 weeks or 13 weeks, always subject to change. But what have you found to be some of the most impactful AI tools that help firms grow rapidly or kind of even regain stability if they are going through rapid growth? So what do you kind of think were the most interesting or under the radar kind of tools that are going on right now?
And what I love about this is actually not that complicated. There's a lot of like doomsaying in LinkedIn about all these crazy tools people are doing at automations. We've seen firms get to million plus revenue easily with just ChatGPT. Like that's kind of the one liner. Like people are like, oh, I want to use this like cool, like even ourselves, like I'm like, we don't talk to firms until they are 1 million plus because we just think we're going to be more value add once we get there. And we realize that firms can do that themselves and develop that huge kind of new skill set for not only the firm owner, but your staff. And so ChatGPT is the biggest one. The second one is your reading notes transcripts. Like you've probably heard this from a lot of accounting gurus out there, like the Chad Davis, Jason Stats of the world, including yourself, David. And so meeting notes are, we as accounting firm or accountants, are kind of our goal. It has all the interactions we have with other humans. And then that's how we train the AIs eventually. That's how we better understand how we're communicating with each other. And so just take your meeting transcripts, put it into ChatGPT. And then every time you go into your client calls, you're much more kind of well-versed in their pain points. And then you can do cool other things, but I'll just stop there.
Yeah.
David, before I can ramble on, just you can utilize ChatGPT
Yeah, I
during
don't
his
get.
notes.
I'll give a quick shout out. I know there's a handful of now these industry meeting note tools popping up. There's Vinyl from Jordan Trent. There are a few more. I can't recall their names, but I know that they're. Do you know you did you meet with a few
Yeah.
recently?
Yeah, so we know the folks at Vinyl really, really well. Jordan and Trent are awesome and huge supporters. We have like a accounting text WhatsApp group,
Oh,
including
cool.
David Lapp from Abacor. And then we got like Isaac in there from Opser who does incredible automation things as well. And so we're always like sharing notes. And um, I think there's a need of like, yes, you have meeting notes, but then you also need it to get into the context of like an accounting firm owner. There's also a lot of confidentiality things there as well, which those meeting note takers are really focused on. So yeah, really recommend those and just
Yeah.
utilizing that data.
Yeah. So it feels like step one, if you're on Zoom or Teams, I mean, I know Zoom pretty well. Like, turn on the AI summary, turn on the AI transcript, and just feed it into ChatGPT. Switching to ChatGPT, you said like that's the one thing from 0 to 1 million. Ignore the noise. Get really good at ChatGPT. How can somebody? What are the use cases, or what have you learned about prompting in ChatGPT that's so helpful for the 0 to 1 phase?
Number one rule in prompting: get the AI to prompt for you. So I do this even with my own wife, which sometimes can cause a little bit of tension between us. But it's like anything we want to do, tell ChatGPT first to be like, hey, can you write this prompt for me? There's certain things where you don't need it, where it's like, I just need to do a better Google search. Then just be like, hey, what is the best restaurant in my area? Or as a firm owner, like, how do I better write this email? But if you're doing a more complex workflow, like a cash flow analysis, hey, I'm going to give you a balance sheet of profit and loss. Here's a meeting note transcript of them talking about their cash flow pain points. Can you write me a prompt based on the information you're seeing and what I'm telling you? And then you feed it back into it. ChatGPT 5 is great where it can like switch between the thinking. And so you don't have to worry about which model you're using right now. Don't stress about that, but just tell it to prompt itself. That I'd say is like the one thing. It's the biggest anxiety. And we've also changed the user interface of our tool because people are like, I don't know what to prompt. And I have a lot of anxiety, which makes total sense. But all I'm saying is make the AI do the hard work for you and just get it to prompt itself.
Nice. Do you use the technique where you tell the GBT how to think, as a senior CFO, as a seasoned CFO, do you do that? Can you help me understand A, B, and C? Or is that not necessary if you're asking for the prompt in the
Oh,
first place?
it's a good question, David. It's when you ask for a prompt, sometimes it'll do it itself, but you could also give it an example and have it be more tailored to it. And then the other hack, which you don't have to do now much, but you used to say, and you have 20 years experience. That used to be like the hack to be like, okay, take it seriously. Um, The other thing, David, I would suggest is not have to do that constantly is to create a ChatGPT projects. And so that way you can create those instructions and put it into a project. There's also custom GPTs, but right now we would recommend people just use projects. It's pretty much the same, but in projects you can use something called deep research, which helps you do a lot more things. It's funny because things get outdated so quickly. So what I'm saying right now just might be changed in 3 weeks when they do another announcement. But right now, projects is great. You do those instructions into the project. You tell it, hey, you're like a senior financial analyst that's amazing at financial reporting in different ways, and you have 20 years experience. And then that way you can just feed it the information and be like much more free flowing with how you're prompting it. But if if you don't have a project, then I would definitely recommend being like, you are this
Yeah.
persona and it kind of go there.
So what are some common workflows or use cases that you typically see firms not using in ChatGPT and you're like, "Oh, please put this in. Please put this in ChatGPT." Is there anything that comes to
Yeah.
mind?
So David, I think it goes back with the number one question we get when firms onboard us is like, how do we make transaction categorization faster? How do we make like invoice management faster? And what's funny is the biggest bottleneck actually is not the stuff that you can typically offshore to different countries and do it for cheaper. It's actually the reviewer, or in many cases, the firm owner. And so in that case, it's like the advisory level work that also has the highest margins. Like we're seeing people charge thousands of dollars per month, which is what you should be charging if you're doing that level of like fractional CFO advisory work. Um, in that case, you are the bottleneck because your mind is kind of what they're paying for. And so if you can take your meeting transcript note and put it into a custom project and have the AI learn how to talk to you. We've done this with our own staff accountant. I used my own meeting notes to put it into a project. Then we had her speak to that agent and do scenario like testing, like pretend you're a client. This is like the amazing stuff of training now you can do with projects. She learned to talk like me, which is kind of creepy in many ways, but actually like helped me with my capacity. Now she takes on, so we still have a bunch of clients. We have around like 10 plus clients still that we still service as a bookkeeping firm. They're awesome clients, and we're using our tech to better learn how to become a better technology provider as well. And she just manages all of them without me kind of being on that call now, because she kind of learned how I'm speaking. So I'd say that's like kind of the biggest use case to just free up firm owners from their own kind of limited capacity.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, one of the hardest things is kind of that soft skill conversations. And I was just at a cast summit, for example, and soft skills come up all the time. Communication comes up all the time because you're meeting with a client, you're meeting with them monthly, you're walking them through the finance, and there's always this challenge of how do you train up your folks. But if you're meeting with them, and certainly if you're meeting with them virtually and recording that and building out your patterns and your playbooks using ChatGPT, I mean that's really powerful. Once somebody surpasses that 1 million mark and they're integrating ChatGPT in some of the ways we've talked about, what shifts between 1 to 10 million from a technology roadmap or AI roadmap perspective?
Yeah, I think at that point is really when you get the question of, am I on the most optimal tech stack? And so obviously we know that Jetpack Workflow and many other amazing tools that have all this like amazing data that you need to now integrate into that conversation. And so you're like, hey, my practice management system, my workflow automation system has these checklists. I now want to train my staff using those checklists. And instead of me copying and pasting, that's why I'm like, sub 1 million, you can copy and paste. Like you have the time, like, but once you go above that, you have more of a staff. You don't really want to be copying and pasting stuff yourself or even getting your staff to do that. So that's when like, without getting too technical, you want like direct API connections into things. You want
Mm,
things to be automatically pulled from systems, including your accounting ledger, right? Whether that's QBO ledger, as a zero, all these other new ledgers that are coming up. And so that's 1 million is when we see that bottleneck where people are like, I want to move faster. Maybe I'm starting to offshore now. How do I train them with like the right checklists? And so that's where we see that bottleneck. And we're like, hey, you can you've learned how to do it yourself. That's what we're always like, please use ChatGPT to the maximum capabilities. And now you hit that ceiling where like, hey, I want more context in here. And I'm feeling that pain point of just copying and pasting things in here.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, once you get past 1 million, you want to look at your data flow and you want to make that as efficient as possible so your team could take advantage of AI.
Yeah, exactly. And the
Yeah.
creepy part, David, which to be completely honest, like no one's doing this now. And like we work with a ton of firms. No one's like automating everything out. No firm is like 3x in capacity. Um, so that's why I'm just always like, just use ChatGPT and you all will, you all will see the benefits.
That's
But
yeah, well, it's interesting
for
you mentioned that. I mean, have you seen or even anecdotal data on what this does to capacity or firm margins, once they get it locked in? Are you seeing firms that have really dialed in this world of automation and AI kind of in the top 10, top 5, top 1% of profit margin, or kind of what are you seeing on the front lines there?
we're seeing like 60% profit margins in many cases. That's also like not because of, to be completely transparent, it's not because of the tech too. People have just been able to price things much more competitive. So there is like that human element of just knowing what they're worth and pricing that. But then also like having these automations and great tech stack to like superpower you to get there and get your team to be able to
I
move.
see.
Because like there's still like the burnout aspect that still we're seeing with people's teams. Unfortunately, if you're not on a great tech stack, you're really like kind of pushing your team to the limit, and being on the right tech stack helps your team kind of manage that.
You mentioned trying to get access or using your ledgers to pull data in. I was talking with somebody the other day about Zero, and I said, well, I hope they had all this momentum 6, 7, 8 years ago in the US. I kind of see inklings that it's coming back. And I was wondering if they were going to be a true threat to QBO again. It felt like they were in the early 2010s. And the person I was speaking with, he said, I doubt it, but these new AI native ones are could really give QuickBooks a run for the money. Are you in agreement there? Are you seeing a lot of optimism on the AI general ledger front from some of these new ones? And if so, which ones kind of stand out for you as the most interesting?
I love this conversation because we have it as a team all the time. Um, I think this is the first time in like the accounting history where like, we just don't know. It's like kind of leveled the playing field in many ways. And so we have all these like, and when I say AI agents, it's like just ChatGPT scripts, schedules to like pull the recent information from all these ledger information. Zero did something really cool where they came out with an MCP, which all it means is like it just brings something into like a really cool knowledge base so you can pull APIs information faster. Just a way to quickly summarize it. QuickBooks has not done that. Um, and so that's kind of a big sign that maybe Zero is trying
And
to.
what are some of the use cases you can see unlocked from that MCP that Zero did?
Yeah. So this is really nerdy, but there's engineers now who are becoming kind of bookkeepers. I'll caveat this for all my accountants. Like, don't worry, they're never going to replace the accountant fully because you still need the planning and scheduling. But the really small businesses, like those side projects, like people can do their bookkeeping within what engineers called an ID. So cursor is what they use. And you could be like, hey, what was my invoices? Can you just send out an invoice through code? And it goes through the Zero kind of ledger and they'll send it out. And so like that's what an MCP has allowed people to do, is to be able to like use different interfaces to code without logging into Zero anymore, which is super cool. Um,
So if I understand correctly, so if you're in Claude or I mean, imagine ChatGPT, or does it have to be something like or
yeah, right now
it has
it
to
would
be a
have to
coding.
be like, yeah, it have to be a coding.
It has to be a coding specific. So you're in Claude and you're you're working on your software, you're coding, you're prototyping things, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, I want to switch to some accounting and bookkeeping tasks. In that same window, you can chat and you know prompt an agent to go into Zero and generate an invoice, send invoice. You can start doing actions within your code editor.
Exactly, which is just like so cool. Like there's a video, David, I'll send it to you after, like someone's doing it and like everyone's freaking out because he's like just coding and he's like, oh wait, this is really cool. Let me send out an invoice. And he just like codes like, and then the invoice gets sent through Zero. Didn't have to context switch at all.
Interesting. Where do you think that goes? Where do you think that opens up? What are more opportunities that opens up?
It is like the $1 million question because it's like, I don't want to jump here, but I'm going to do it, David. Like when people think about the industrial revolution, everyone's like, wow, look, it's kind of like the internet. Like the internet helped GDP grow 4x. The industrial revolution, which is like when they added electrification, changed like the factory floor completely. People were not building factories like vertical, they could build them horizontal. And like, honestly, this is the question where like, okay, I don't have to context switch, or maybe like my agent can already predict that I have to send out an invoice and it just sends it automatically. Where are we going to focus our time more? It's like the $1 million question. Where I'd love for it to go is more human connection, where we're just chatting with people and like our agents are doing all that manual work of invoice sending, all that stuff. But like, I don't know, to be honest, but it's exciting
Yeah.
building in this space.
I wonder, there's kind of like maybe two scenarios in the world where and it feels like 2 years ago, everybody was in camp A, but then, recently this is, we're in fall of 25, people are kind of in the latter camp now of specialized, verticalized AI, but, like, camp 1 would have been like, okay, every accounting firm is gonna be able to quickly create their own, accounting agent, accounting assistant, and they would kinda run off and do various items for them. It could be tax prep, it could be admin assistant type work, but everybody would have access to it. They would, download something, it would cost $20 a month and or, be the Devon equivalent version, the $800 a month coder AI code agent that came out. And and it can commoditize a large swath of the industry, which is obviously puts a lot of pressure on people listening. The other end of the spectrum would be, well, you get an agent, but your agent is, somehow specialized trained in your firm and in your process. So the agent is somewhat more synonymous with like just a hire you would get. And you're like, and as you're pitching clients, there's some version of like, well, our agents are better than their agents, right? Like, so we have the team and the agents, both of them are better. Our team's more qualified, the more advisory focused, they can drill into the numbers with you, and our agents are more finely tuned to the most important things. So I wonder if we're going to fall in the latter where all of a sudden people accounting firms are like almost as a value prop saying like our team is better, both human and agents are way more qualified. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out.
We're betting on the latter, David. And to that exact point, that's why I think statement of operating procedures and your meeting notes are your gold in your firm, because that's going to help you, quote unquote, fine tune those agents better. So the more you're kind of documenting that, whether it's your practice management system or however you're doing it, like please, whoever's listening, like make sure you save that somewhere because that's going to help you differentiate to that fine tuning point.
Yeah, really interesting. So, why do you think, Zero did this move for MCPs? Intuit hasn't yet. I don't know their roadmap. Is it on their roadmap? Are they doing it? Are they nervous to kind of open up Pandora's box in these code editors like Claude? Like, why have they not executed on this?
David, you're asking me the questions that might get me canceled.
Okay.
There's a lot of controversy. No, I'm just joking. There's a lot of controversy around why QuickBooks or Intuit's doing what they're doing. Obviously, you know this better than me. Like a lot of people are saying, are they competing with accountants? Are they? I'm not sure. Like, I wish I had the inside scoop. I think what's really cool is like the point that you made where there's so many more ledgers coming up. And we're seeing this in the venture market as well. More venture capitalists are, before if you say you were going to make an accounting ledger, like a venture capitalist will just laugh at you. They're like, there's no way you're going to
Why?
make this.
Yeah.
Yeah, like now people are like, I think there is one because like if you can provide a better data quality, it kind of is similar to the developer landscape of like people will just use what's more friendly. And so because there's more startups coming up into the space, like ourselves as technology providers as well, we will slowly lean towards what gives us better data. And what's the crazier, like the 10-year vision is agents will not care about branding or whatever it is. Agents will only care what they can interact with best or who has the best agent on their end. So that includes like the technology provider. So if Zero already is like, hey, we have MCP, your agents can interact with that better. The agent's like, I want to use MCP. I'm not going to go and go to this Pandora box of QuickBooks APIs, which they don't give you access to a lot of things. And so, yeah, I'm not sure why QuickBooks is not doing it now, but all I know is like, there's more players coming in. To your point,
Yeah.
David, it's not even just humans; it's agents coming in. Well, Grenade saw too.
Which new ledger are you most optimistic about, or have you seen the most interesting releases from?
I got to shout out Count. So it's by Chris, who the reason I like Count, they're an early stage startup as well. They're servicing tens of thousands of companies.
Now I
They're
have to ask.
super
I just have to ask. How do you spell it? Is it just COUNT or
Count. Yeah,
okay?
Count. Um, and we've been to a few conferences with kind of the founders there. The reason we really like them is they're super developer friendly, which is very like the biggest bottleneck in our team right now is just mapping out the existing ledgers and their data and putting it into our system to make it easier for accounting firm owners to use. Their developer first approach is very unique where they're like, hey, all of our data is available, obviously very secure and done in a proper way. But here you can come in and add versus the existing incumbents are kind of like more gatekeeping it. But yeah, we've also talked to the folks at Puzzle as well. And so we like how they're building a ledger that's focused on being the best for AI agents. So that's a really interesting approach as well.
What's different? Help me understand what's the practical difference in Puzzle when they're building for AI agents first? Like, what are some features that they have in there that makes it obvious that's what their objective is?
It's definitely hard to see on the front end because we as humans are more likely to honestly gear towards something that's more QuickBooks friendly or Zero friendly. On the back end, I think that's the more interesting point where it's like they're giving the agents more better data quality to make decisions. And we always use these words, agents. It's ultimately like a large language model that's obsessed with language. And so if you can give your numbers enough language so that that agent can understand it, it's great. And this is why in legal tech, AI is kind of blown out the roof and you're seeing it used way more because all their data is language. But in our world, numbers need context. And so the more a ledger can provide that like language context to it, the better we can understand that number and the
Interesting.
agent.
So with their approach, Puzzle arguably could make it. Like you said, you also have to think in terms of agents, but whether it's agent or human, they're going to be interfacing with this general ledger, and the more accurate they are about the prompts that are being given to it, the better, right? So like, you don't have to kind of reprompt and prompt over again. Um, Last question, I guess, on the AI world. We'll talk about the elephant in the room is Intuit. What have you seen on the AI front for Intuit that you're kind of optimistic about, or do you think they're still missing a lot of the boat?
I think they're going to do the best job at like transaction categorization. And like we almost like killed ourselves as a startup trying to solve that problem. And we realized like Intuit would be the best position to solve that like low hanging fruit just because they have those bank feed connections. They're able to try to just work in like, it's more of a partnership conversation with the banks to be able to bring that information, more metadata information to better categorize things. Us, like as a startup, would only get to 95%. And so that stuff I'm like really bullish on, just be for them to be able to do like better data around invoices, payments, things like that, that they already have infrastructure on. Really, really excited about that. Once they get to like the higher level thinking stuff, they do truly start to compete with the accountants in different ways. And how they manage that is going to be a tricky one. So we'll see. We'll see how they do it. They're a massive organization. So
When you say
uh,
higher level, is this the AI generated like kind of reporting, or what do you mean by that?
yeah, exactly. The reporting, because in order to do proper reporting, you have to become industry specific.
Yeah.
Um, and so if they start to become industry specific, it does get a bit scary for account. And that's just my perspective, is because that's kind of our advantage. Like we niche down. You probably heard this for a lot of firms, like niche down, because then you can provide very tailored advice. But the moment they start to do that to provide just niche reports, then you start to get very competitive with kind of your human customers.
Yeah. All right. Final couple questions, I suppose. I was gonna say final one. Maybe we can get a couple in here. So if a firm's in kind of this 1+ million range and they're getting hammered by PE, what do you think is their um kind of in defense of, or like not needing to join PE? How do they insulate themselves? I say this in a way that maybe it comes across as more competitive than it is. I found accounting firms, a lot of times not that competitive, but against this concept of PE, maybe they are. So, what's your thought on these 1 to 10 million firms? And if they want to stay independent, what must they lock in? You mentioned the technology stack's a really big one. Is that the core driver, or are there other facets they should think about?
Yeah, and so David, I'd caveat like whether you take PE money or not, like there's no negative or positive. I think PE could be rocket fuel for some firms, and for some
Yeah.
firms, it's not a culture fit. Um, where I get really, really excited. So my background was working on it as a private equity investor. We looked at a lot of accounting firms, but we looked at a lot of firms that have already been hit with PE, like HVAC, dental clinics, car washes. Very different than accounting, but how PE looks at it is very similar. And so they're looking for something that they can get synergy. So like if I buy another firm and bring it into this accounting firm, can this accounting firm absorb that? And 1 + 1 = 3. And so accounting firms are best positioned for that because you all have been in the industry for so much longer than someone who's just getting into the industry. And so leveraging relationships, this is such a relationship business. It's not like a car wash where any car can go in and just get a wash. Like people want to work with someone, they want to. So I think yes, obviously tech stack makes you much more leaner, makes you take on more, and doesn't burn out your team, which is really really important. But just really focusing on like niching down even more, having these interpersonal relationships that are stronger with your uh, business owner on the other side is super super important. That you will always have that like advantage compared to the private equity folks who are looking at your like traditional accounting firms as like a manufacturing business. What levers can I pull to increase operating margins?
Yeah.
And so hopefully that helps a little bit. But like I think like yeah, utilize like that data, that interpersonal data, like meeting notes and stuff to like really enhance your offerings in different ways.
I love it. I love it. Anderson, if somebody wants to reach out, say thank you, follow you, what's the best way for our audience to connect with you?
LinkedIn would be the best way. We're trying to offer free content every day there. So it's my name is Anderson Petergeorge. It's a very unique name. So I'm the only one out there. And then you can also see our website at www.tryquanto.com, and you can book a meeting with me directly, and then happy to chat.
Yep. Highly encourage everybody to check that out, especially connect with him on LinkedIn. That's where we first got connected. I've really been enjoying your content. Do a full write up at jetpackworkflow.com/blog. Enjoyed the interview. Leave a review. Really enjoyed it. Share it, share it, share it. If Anderson unlocks something for you about AI prompting or asking the AI to prompt for you, share it with somebody that needed to hear this. Anderson, it was great to have you on.
Thank you, David. Really appreciate the opportunity.